Welcome, my friends. This is Maniacal Incorporated, and you join me deep below the surface of Sidic Vaults in the first cavern layer, where we recently saw off another cave fishman invasion. And I've walled off much of the access to the water to block them from coming ashore. However, the cave fishmen do have, we can see one of them there, they do have this entire area all to themselves. If I send the civilians in to try and wall off the outskirts, the cavefish people will come ashore and attack them. If I send in the militia will jump into the water to fight the cavefishmen and drown. So we need to come up with some way of teaching the dwarves how to swim, and I think I have just the solution. Dwarves will gain swimming experience if they are in a tile of water that is greater than 4 in height. So here we have some water down in the cavern, and if I come down a layer, it tells us that it is 7, 7. So that second 7 is as high as the water can go. 1, 7 would be a puddle on the floor, and then 7, 7 would be water from, or liquid, from floor to ceiling. So completely full of water. So if we can get a dwarf into a tile that is 4, 7 or higher, they will learn how to swim. The problem is that they will not voluntarily move into a square that is higher than, I think, 3. And the other problem is we need to find a way of getting them out of the water again. So one of the common ways of doing this is to flood a room, order the dwarves in first of all, seal the door, flood the room, and then they will learn how to swim and then drain out the water. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to teach them how to swim by building and then flooding a roller coaster track. Here is a room downstairs, just below what's going to become Copperface Jacks. And I'm going to go to our construction menu. We'll go to constructions. And I'm going to take a track stop. And I'm going to place it... here. With our track stop in place, I'm now going to go to the digging orders, and I'm going to channel out. So 2 squares to the right of the track stop and 2 squares to the left of the track stop. I'm going to take up the mining. We're going to drop down a level just under this where we've channeled out. We drop down a level and then go 1 to the right. So you can see that it's going to lead in this direction. And we can do the same thing on the opposite side, down and 1 to the left. So this is basically a level which has access to the water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a track down here. And we'll say they'll go in this direction around the track. They will come up here and they will come to the stop. And I will mine out and connect up to the water, put in a floodgate and flood the track. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually draw in the track. And then I'm also going to draw in a line leading out to the water. And here's what our track is going to look like. So if I come up a level, here's our start. So the cart will start here. It will travel down this ramp, around this track, and back and up the ramp and to the start. And here we have a tunnel where the water is going to come in. So when we're ready, I will channel out this square from above, and this will flood, and we will have a floodgate. Now, while this is being worked on, the other thing I'm going to do, just for the sake of simplicity, this isn't absolutely essential, I'm going to put down a stockpile, and it is going to take furniture. We will customize it, and the only thing it's going to take is minecarts. And what I've done is the exact opposite. Minecarts is the only thing that it's going to take. And the reason I'm doing this is just because my metal smithing area is on elevation 32. We're working on elevation -9, so there's a kind of a long distance. I'm going to add a task in my metalsmith's forge for other objects. And we'll say copper because I have a lot of copper. And a copper minecart. So they're going to get to work on that, and I'm just going to turn off minecarts from the stockpiles the way that they don't try to leave them here, because they're quite heavy and it's going to take a long time for them to actually deliver the minecart. So if they're if they're bringing it up and down to from -9 to 32, if it's coming off the track and they're bringing it back up or stuff like that, it's going to take ages. So I just think it's easy to keep a stockpile beside where you want the minecart to be for this operation. The other thing that you can do while you're waiting for the minecart to be built and for the area to be carved out for the track is you can admire all the animals that your fort should have. And also you can get a floodgate built. So this is going to be in the stoneworkers workshop. Add new task. And here we have a rock floodgate. So you can order one of those to be built. I already have an artifact floodgate. So we might as well use that for this operation. And the other thing you're going to need is just a handful of mechanisms for connecting up the floodgate to a lever. We're actually finding a lot of gems down here. Now I do love gems, so I'm going to order them to be mined out. They don't have to be. But as we're going to be flooding this area quite shortly, if we want the gems, we'd better get them now. Right, it's taken a bit longer than expected, but we have finished off sealing up the last of the holes in the wall created by mining out those gems. If you wanted to, now would be your opportunity to smooth out the walls. I was thinking of maybe digging out around here and putting in glass windows. Have a stairs leading from this layer down and mine out all this area. Turn it into a little tavern where they could watch the training in progress. Of course, dwarves can't see through glass, but we can pretend. If we come up a layer, we see here we have a masterful copper minecart. So that's what's going to be used in the training. We'll come to constructions and to track. And we can click here just beside the track stop and basically just lead with the mouse. I'm not clicking or anything. This is a big improvement on how this used to be done in OG Dwarf Fortress, where you would have to put down every track piece individually. And I'm just going with use the closest material. And what we'll have to do is, I think it's put it there. And that should be a-okay. So it is a bit finicky at the very end, finishing off the track. So it didn't really work coming up the ramp, but everything is connected. So what we have now is a fully connected track. Once this is built, we're going to have a fully connected track, which is not necessarily what we want. I'm going to open up my mining tool, and like I said, we're going to need to put in an impulse ramp every 10 spaces. The reason for that is because friction will apply to the cart and the cart will start to slow down. So we need to have a way of speeding it up, and there's two ways of doing that. One is with rollers and with powering them, and the other is by basically abusing the systems in the game. So what I'm going to do is count out every 10 steps around this track, and I'm going to mine out a part of the wall. So we'll say here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that'll be the square, 9, and 10. So we might as well actually mine out you. And then I will cancel that construction. And we'll cancel this one as well. So we go for another 10 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we'll mine out that part of the wall. Okay, and if everything has been done correctly, I have about every 10, it doesn't have to be exact, but about every 10 spaces on the track, I have cleared 2 spaces, and we have part of the wall about to be mined out, or where I had walls already built, cancelling. So we're going to have a kind of an L shape, or an R shape, in the wall. Where I have that shape appearing, what we're going to do is go back to constructions, and we're going to construct a ramp. This is going to make sense now Well, do you know what? No, it's not going to make sense, but it works. And right next to where we're going to mine out the wall, we're going to build a ramp. So part of the track is now going to be constructed, and then we're going to have people mining out or deconstructing the walls, building ramps, and then we're going to have some spaces where our impulse ramp is going to go in. We can see parts of the track have been constructed. You could also go to wall smoothing and engraving, and here is carve a track. So you could actually carve out the tracks instead of building them from stone. I find it an easy, handy way to get rid of some stone by actually building the tracks, and also you can take them apart easier if you make a mistake. And while I was testing, oh boys, did I make mistakes. So we can see here in the top corner that a dwarf has just picked up a piece of stone that was, I won't say blocking this area, but they've taken that somewhere. So what I can now do is I can actually seal off this area. That's why I hadn't built the floodgate. So if I'm correct, it's under machines and fluids. Here is a floodgate. Here's the rollers, which are powered. So they require a power source, and these can also be used to drag minecarts up a ramp. And that's basically why we're building these impulse ramps, is for this final ramp here. Because without the impulse ramps, the minecart will come down and it will hit the ramp and basically just go back and come to a stop somewhere. But we are going for the floodgate. I'll place that right there, and do you know what? We might as well use this artifact floodgate that some visiting noble arrived in the fort with, and they died in one of the many riots that broke out in this accursed fort. And now it's going to be put to good use. Now then, the exciting part, the impulse ramps. We're going to go back to the constructions menu. We're going to take our tracks, and we're going to start in the little alcove that we have mined into the wall. It doesn't matter what direction this comes from. So we could have mined out on this side, but we pretty much have to mine out on one of the two sides. There is another way of doing this, where if you have... So if this track, if everything, the layer above this track was mined out, you could start on the layer above and do this, but I find this is the easiest way. So we start in the little alcove, we come out and we go down. And we're going to say granite. Doesn't make an ounce of difference. We cancel the construction. We could cancel this construction if we wanted to. Doesn't make too much of a difference. We will go back to constructions. We'll put in a wall. And once that is built, we have an impulse ramp. The way that it works is that the minecart basically goes from tile to tile to tile and asks, what speed should I be going, where did I come from, and what direction am I going? So it's on this tile, and it then moves to this one, even though it looks like it shouldn't be able to. And because it's on a ramp, from what I understand, the cart will be under the impression that it is travelling down a ramp. So it was on a higher plane, and that it's after coming from the Z level one above, and that it should accelerate. So by abusing this, you can basically get the cart to accelerate. And this is a very important component in dwarven shotguns. So I'm going to do that all the ways around. You could put these one after the other to really accelerate the minecart. I have done this. I have put so many of them down that the minecart has not stopped, that the minecart has not been able to stop, and somebody has gone on an infinite journey. What fun they had. But the easiest thing to do is just to do it with one alcove at the time. So if you did want to put a couple of them side by side, because there's a chance if you mined out 2 or 3 tiles and you try to draw that shape, it would just go this way. So the easiest thing to do is just one at a time, like what we're doing here. So I'm going to finish those off. First thing to note is that it is important that these walls be put back in, so you can't just leave them out. The wall, from what I understand, does have to be built. The other thing to take note of here is that we have an unusable rough granite block upward track west. So from what I can understand, these are not actually connected together. So I'm going to have to deconstruct them. Now the problem is that it is most likely, I might deconstruct the two of those. It's most likely also going to deconstruct the ramp. So I'll have to rebuild the ramp by going to constructions and ramp. So that can be a bit finicky. If you ever set these down incorrectly, these impulse ramps, you'll have to rebuild the ramp, because if you were to deconstruct this, it would also deconstruct the ramp that's underneath it. Luckily enough, I got the track disassembled up here, and I'm wondering now if this looks like it's going to work. It looks like it's going to work. And thankfully the ramp wasn't unbuilt, so we should get this done. And there we go. Finally, the last bit of the track has been added from what I can see. I think I made a bit of a mistake and told them to take the stone that was furthest away, because it has taken quite a lot of time for them to haul the stone down here. It would have been much faster to have engraved the tracks like I was saying, but that puts you in a position where you have to be pretty confident of what you're doing. I have a floodgate here, and it is linked by a lever, or it's linked by a mechanism to a lever, so we can open and close that. And like I said, I have channeled out the square here, so on top, channeled out this square, which has allowed this area to flood. So I can now open and close this and flood the track when I want to. The first thing we're going to do is a test run. So we have our minecart here, and what I'm going to do is come down to set hauling routes for minecarts down here in the menu at the bottom. Here is some information that we can just turn off for now. And what I'm going to do is add new route. So this first option allows us to add a stop to the route, and I'm going to click on that and click our stop, and we don't actually need to put in a second one. The next thing is to assign a minecart. So it brings up all of available minecarts, and we will click on the only one we have. Then on the bottom row, and I'm actually just going to pause a moment before somebody comes down, because this is indicating that the assigned vehicle wants to be at this stop but is not currently there. So somebody is going to ferry it across. And before we let that happen, we have some more changes to make. We don't need to set desired items. We don't need to set a stockpile. Set conditions for the minecart to move on to the next stop. So we can delete these two, because we only need the one instruction. Guide north immediately when full of desired items. So we could put a bit of a pause in there. Guide north in 1 day. We leave it at 0. This figure here, if we click on that, it will change from guide to push off to ride, which is what we want. So we want the dwarves to get into the minecart and ride on this roller coaster. We're going to change from north to south to east. And then we have our options here for the for how full the wagon should be before it takes off. And I will reduce that to, I'll put it to 25 just to show what this does. Immediately when at least 25% full, at most 25% full. So if you were using this for actually pushing off minecarts full of stone or full of jewels or something like that, you could use those various different things to decide what level you want the minecart to be at. So we can click done, and now we wait. Here is the high pride of city vaults of one of the various religions in the fort, making their way through the cat corridor. And they have decided that they are going to be the first to take a journey on the cart. Now, if you see, as it goes past the impulse ramps, it speeds up a bit. And back to the start, and because they've reached the start and it's the exact same instruction, quite often they will get off the cart and get back on it. But there you go. Oh, they've enjoyed themselves. They're going for a third trip. And everything seems to be working. Now, when this area is full of water, it will increase the friction on the minecart. And that's why we have the impulse ramps every 10 spaces. Without the water, to get it back to its start position, we could probably do that with 1 or 2 less impulse ramps. But it looks like everything is working fine. So I am going to delete this route to stop people from getting on and off the track. And we're going to begin the process of flooding the tunnel. Here we have a floodgate. It is connected by a mechanism to a lever. And if we now pull this lever, somebody will eventually get around to that. I've put that in a kind of a higher traffic area than putting it down here. And what's going to happen is the floodgate will open. The water is going to come in. So I've had the floodgate open now for a while, and we can see the area has filled up nicely. We actually have a couple of regions of a height of 5 in here, and these are going to go down to the 4s and swap with the 4s. We have a couple of regions of 3 and 2 over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually flip the switch again. So that will close that gate. And hopefully these 5s will level out, and they'll level out with the 3s and 2s, and we'll get a good chunk of this area filled up. And then the rest of the area can be filled from a water source. So the gate has shut, and we're going to wait now for the water to kind of settle, for it to get over here to the lower region. So it's moving in a very strange fashion. It's tending to stay over here, the 5s over here and the 3s over here. But once it settles, we'll see how much more water we need to bring in, and we can just dump that in basically by buckets. So there is the last of the 5s, and we still have 2 bits of track that keep appearing every once in a while as the waves kind of wash over them. So everywhere is up to 4 except for these 2 tiles. So what we're going to do is go to our place zones, pit pond, and I will place 1 there. We can accept. Designate this zone as the top of a pond. Citizens will bring buckets of water if the pond below isn't filled. So we will agree to that and do the same on the other side. And so basically 2 dwarves will now bring 1 bucket each of 1/7 water. They will dump it in, and that's all we need. They've taken their time getting down here, but that is the last bucket of water that we need. So we have a tile 5 and a tile 3, and once they meet, they will annihilate. They will both become 4 7s. So I've already deleted the pond over here, the way we don't have another dwarf coming down to pour a bucket in. I will select this one and remove permanently. So we'd probably be best to hold on just until these actually meet, and will they? This could take a while. But once they level out, we can then basically begin the process. There we go. Back to our routes. Add new route. And we'll just add this back in quickly. We'll add our copper minecart. And we can get rid of these 2. And again, we are going to push off to, or we're going to, that one is ride, and we could go west as well. We'll go east. And put that down to 0. And now we wait for for some brave soul, first of all to put the minecart on the track, and then for some brave soul who wants to learn how to swim. We've had some very important people take an interest in our little quest today. Here is Nomal, the captain of the guard, and they have the task to place track vehicle. So if you're trying to check who's actually doing this task, you can go into your citizens tab and just order alphabetically and see who is doing the place track vehicle. Quite often the person that places the vehicle will also actually push the vehicle, so we'll have to see what Nomal does. Now it's quite heavy, so they're going to move quite slowly. Nomal has decided, oh, he's coming back to push the vehicle. He is coming back to push the vehicle, so push track vehicle is the task that'll be taken on basically by somebody who decides that they want to have a go on the roller coaster and weren't told that the entire place is flooded. So what we can do first of all is take a look at skills, and under other skills we can see that he is a dabbling swimmer. He's already actually a dabbling swimmer. So quite often if they have never undergone any swimming, then this trait just will not be there. So it mightn't be entirely clear if you're just using Dwarf Fortress whether anybody is actually learning how to swim or not. That is why we're going to switch across to Dwarf Therapist, which some people absolutely hate, but I think it can be quite helpful in a number of different areas, especially, we'll say, if you want to see who has the most kills in your fort. So here are some people that I think have mostly been hunting. And then at the top in terms of actual military kills is Aleph. And there is Taltig, so a couple of famous people from the fort, but that's not what we are concerned with. We'll go back to... We don't really need to go to Labour's Full, but we are looking for Nomal. And we can see that Nomal is currently pushing a minecart. So it's this Nomal here, and if we go to other skills, we can see over here that he has one experience point as a swimmer. So you can see others then have 0 XP. So 1 experience point is where Nomal is starting from. So keeping track of that, we will set camera to follow creature, and we will hope that we have enough impulse bends that will allow him to make a full transit of the track. And he is back to the start and he is off. We have had a successful test of our Splash Mountain swimming roller coaster. It is a complete triumph. Let's see just how much swimming experience Nomal gained from that. So we're back again in Dwarf Therapist. We hover over. He has 1 XP. We go to read, and it's going to read in all of the new stats, all of the hundreds of points of experience that he has surely gained. 5. He's gone from 1 to 5 XP. It is an increase. Here's the next person onto the cart. It's Domas, who is also a dabbling swimmer, with 1 XP. And this is something that you will see happen every once in a while, is that they'll basically get off the cart and get straight back on it, that's just dedication, that's commitment. They love to learn, and you see it also shows that they are tremendously enjoying, they're having tremendous fun learning how to swim. The great thing is that it doesn't seem to be actually making their clothing wet from what I can see, so they're not getting any negative debuffs. Feel satisfied at work, pushing a track vehicle. And just from those couple of spins there, we can see that Domas, he was on 1 XP and is now up to 80 XP, so 16.2% of the way towards becoming a level 1 swimmer. Level 1 out of 20. This is going to take a while. Now, of course, you mightn't want all of your fort learning how to swim. There isn't really much of a point. We do have a couple of people on level 1 already, and then it's 1.1k towards the next level. So what you can do either from Dwarf Therapist is push hole vehicles. So unassign. Now our problem is that you cannot labor cannot be changed for non-citizens. So there are people visiting who have asked to reside at civic vaults. Some of them are monster slayers, some of them are bards and poets, and I have allowed them. So I can't actually turn push hole vehicles off for them. The other option would be to come to the labor menu, add new work detail, and way down at the very bottom is, or close to the bottom, push hole vehicles. And we can call that swim training. And then you could assign that to whoever you want. But I do have a feeling that visitors to the fort will probably still be able to hole. So what I would like to do would be to just restrict the militia, just give this new labor to just the militia dwarves that I want to train. But it's entirely possible that bards and random crossbowmen and swordsmen who visited your fort will go down and go for a bit of an exciting bath every once in a while. So this has taken way more time than just building a room, ordering everyone in, flooding it, and then draining it. It's taken more time, more effort, for way worse results. I mean, these guys are learning to swim one at a time and very, very, very slowly. It's going to take a very long time before anybody is any way efficient at doing this. So why would you even bother using this setup? Some of the benefits, I suppose, is that with the swimming pool, what you have to do is you have to select your squad, order them into the room, flood the room, drain the room, get them out. With this, it's passive. I can go about the rest of my game taking care of other parts of the fort. I don't need to think about this, and dwarves are, on their downtime when they have nothing else to do, they are passively gaining swimming experience. So this isn't something that I need to be worrying about and micromanaging. I think that's the major benefit here. But yeah, if you're looking to quickly train dwarves on how to swim, this mightn't be the best way, but it's definitely the most enjoyable way. Both for the dwarves taking part, and for just a bit of downtime. It would be great if we had built that little tavern in here in the middle where they could all look out and watch what is going on. Thank you for joining me. I've had tremendous fun. I've had as much fun making this video as Domas has had learning to swim while there's a fight going on upstairs. If you want to see how the dwarves get on when eventually they learn how to swim and they are dropped into the water to fight the cave fish people, do check out the link below in the description to my Twitch channel. I'll be showing off what skills these guys learn over there, if they ever learn anything. And if you make use of this, or if you make a much bigger or much better system, or if there's any advice you can think of on how to improve this system, please do post it in the comments below. Thank you for joining me on this episode, and I wish you the very best of luck in future with your swimming lessons.